Okay, so welcome back again. So here is my final construction of my lion, and as you can see I have added in all of the textured fur, and I have some brown paper here for an extra element as well. So what I've got prepared for us now is I have a jar of glue that's just full strength PVA glue at the moment. I have a large brush. Okay, I have some small bits of brown paper to overlap this edge, because I'm thinking I might keep this as a brown, the brown cardboard and the brown paper, because I think it looks nice and it will work for the brown mane on the lion. I have small pieces of newspaper ripped up, I have medium, and then I have larger pieces. So I have a nice selection of paper that I've prepared and ripped into rectangles and sections. So for my glue mixture, I like to have kind of half and half PVA glue, half PVA glue, half water, and I use my hand to mix that together into a sort of sticky solution. And you can see here now that consistency feels kind of gloopy and is running off my hand like it's maybe more like milk than cream. So I want to maybe get that to like a pouring cream consistency, so I think I need to add a little bit more glue here. So I'm just going to put in some glue. So this is just PVA glue. You can use wallpaper paste for this as well, but you just need to be sure that it's skin safe. PVA glue is non-toxic and it's safe for school use, and it meets all CE standards, whereas with the wallpaper paste, I don't know how skin safe it is. And if you are using your hands, it may not be the best option, because you don't want anyone to have a reaction. Now, I like to use my hands, so I get my hand in and then I cover the area that I'm paper macheing with a good layer of glue. Now, this is why it's so important to have your newspaper armature on your construction part really, really well made, so that it's not going to dissolve with the amount of glue that I'm adding on here. Some people like to use the brush, so if someone has like a sensory problem with glue or doesn't like how glue feels, then it is a good idea to use the glue brush, but I prefer not to. Now, I'm going to use now large sheets of newspaper here to, again, go over the paper mache areas. Now, I have not put any more glue on this because it is very wet, and my wet hand and the wet surface of the construction piece is perfect for me at the moment, where I am using that now to lay the paper very flat. And each different size piece of paper will fit in over each other, like so. And you are using your hand to get into all the little nooks and crannies, and that's going to work for you. So if it gets a little bit dry, you can add a little bit more glue, and then you layer and overlap your newspaper. Now, you may find online some other recipes where they say that you can use flour and water for this. I have never done that because I tried it once and the flour paste did not stick anything and it went moldy, and I found it didn't work. So this process works very well, and the glue dries hard and it gives a very good structural finish to the piece of work. Now, the newspaper absorbs well enough the glue, and if you have a detail like this, it's very important that you use your finger to to get into all of the areas, and that is what the smaller pieces of paper are for, because they fit in the more detailed areas nicer. So as you can see here, I am just working on the nose, and I am making sure that all of the parts are covered and giving them a good layer of newspaper. Now, this is very well constructed underneath, and it doesn't need many layers of papier-mâché. If I was making a piggy bank on a balloon or something like that, I would need many layers of the newspaper, and it would need to happen over a couple of different sessions as well, because it takes a long time for the glue to dry, and you need to allow for drying. So I am going to have this done in one sitting, because I only need to have 1 or 2 layers of paper. Now, the bigger layers of paper really need to get massaged in very well, so that they are sitting nice and flat all over. And I'm using these to go around the edges of the lion's head, like so. Now, make sure that you also prep enough newspaper, because when your hands are wet, it's very hard with wet hands to prep the newspaper, because the newspaper will stick to you. So the tape's function was to hold things temporarily in place and to create a nice smooth surface for the newspaper layer. So this is the more finished layer that's going to be seen on the final piece of art. And some people like to use a layer of tissue paper or toilet roll to give a very smooth finish. And that can work nicely too. Usually if you have something like something with a thirst pocket, that'll be very absorbent, and that will be quite strong. You can also get the glue and tissue and wet the tissue with the glue to make a paste, and that is very sculptable if you wanted to add extra details on your piece. That way you can do that too. Like maybe perhaps if the nose wanted to be built up more on the line, you could use some wet tissue to sculpt, and you would just put a small amount of glue and water in a container of torn up shredded tissue paper, and you make a pulp, and then you can sculpt with it, which is quite nice to use sometimes. Now, so I'm going to go around my edges here with the brown paper to give a nice finish on my lion's face. And again, if you wanted, you could cover the whole thing with 1 layer of this brown paper, and that would work for the color of the lion even, and that would be bringing a decoupage element into the piece, and then you would not need to paint it. So as you can see here, I'm giving a nice layer of brown to my lion. If I was painting this piece, I would let it dry, and then I would use a layer of white poster paint or white emulsion paint from household paint to give a nice white base to everything. It wouldn't be necessary if you were using the white tissue paper from the kitchen, because that will give you a light base, and then what that'll give you for when you're painting is a nice light color to let the colors that you go on top of with your painting process, it will help them to shine a little bit more. Whereas if you have just a plain newspaper, the newspaper, you can see through it and you can see the text coming through the newspaper, which is not necessarily attractive in your final piece of art. So it's important to cancel out your newspaper. Design. So you can see here now I am layering through everything, and I'm covering the lion's head with the brown paper. Like so. And you can see I used the paper bag to just cut up and recycle to give the effect of the skin on the lion, which can sometimes look really good if you have the branding coming through. It can look nice too. I've seen some artists before have used brown envelopes to cover their piece with, and they've left the postmarks on the on their work, which is nice as well. And it's good to reuse and recycle, especially for a craft project like papier-mâché. It lends itself nicely because, as you can see, we've used pretty much very cheap materials and recyclable materials to make this piece of art. And if I cover it in the brown paper, I won't need to paint it. Or if I do paint it, it'll be very light painting and I won't need to do much in the way of painting on it. And I'm using this brown paper at the moment because it's a different color to the newspaper, and it will show me where I've missed. If I've done one layer of newspaper and this is giving me a second layer. So once I have 2 layers on my piece here, I will be happy with that because I know it will dry very strong and that will be satisfactory for my overall piece. So I'm going to continue on papier-mâchéing here, and in the next video you will see how I'm going to paint this to finish off the entire piece. And I will talk to you about priming and how to paint this piece of art. So thanks for watching, and watch out now for the next video. So thank you.